I never imagined I would face this moment. The pain was unlike anything I had ever known, a relentless, crushing wave that tore through my lower body with each contraction, leaving me gasping and trembling against the sterile hospital sheets. I had prepared for this. I had read every book, watched every video, attended every class. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for the reality of labor. Sweat dripped down my temples, matting my dark curls against my flushed skin. I gripped the bed rails so hard my knuckles went white, trying to focus on the breathing techniques I had practiced so diligently. In, up, in, up. But the pain was too consuming, too all-encompassing to think straight. And then, when I lifted my gaze through the haze of agony, there he stood. The world stopped. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment, the crushing pain in my body was eclipsed by a far more devastating ache in my chest. The harsh fluorescent lights of the delivery room cast their unforgiving glow over his familiar features, the sharp jawline I had traced with my fingertips 1,000 times, the deep-set eyes that had once looked at me like I was the center of his universe, the broad shoulders that had carried me through so many storms. Ethan. My ex-alpha husband. He was wearing surgical scrubs and a white coat, his dark hair slightly disheveled beneath the surgical cap, his handsome face arranged into an expression of clinical professionalism. But I saw the crack in that facade the moment our eyes met. I saw the shock ripple through him, the way his hands stilled on the medical tray, the way his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He was the doctor who would deliver my baby. The irony was so cruel, it almost made me laugh. Or cry. Maybe both. Dorian, he said my name with such raw, unguarded shock that I knew instantly. He had no idea. He had absolutely no idea that I would be here, in this hospital, at this moment, bringing our child into the world. He had no idea I had even kept the baby. For one suspended moment, everything else faded away. The monitors beeping, the nurses moving around us, the distant sound of someone crying in another room. It all dissolved into white noise. Just him and me, locked in a gaze that held 3 years of pain, betrayal, and unanswered questions. Then he was slipping into his professional mask, pulling on his gloves with practiced efficiency, hiding whatever emotions churned beneath the surface. I watched him become Dr. Ashford, the respected obstetrician, instead of Ethan, the alpha who had shattered my heart. Focus on your baby, Dorian, I told myself silently. That's all that matters now. But how could I focus when he stood there, not 3 feet away? Those same hands that had once cupped my face with such tenderness, that had traced patterns on my skin while we whispered promises in the dark, now gripped medical instruments with detached precision. Another contraction hit, and I let out a groan that was half pain, half frustration. Dorian, breathe with me, Ethan said, his voice dropping into that familiar, soothing cadence. In, out. That familiar concern in his voice made everything hurt even more. I looked directly into his eyes, those deep brown eyes that had once made me feel so safe, and forced the coldest tone I could muster. Just save my baby, Dr. Ashford, I said, my voice cutting through the delivery room like a blade. Everything else comes later. The coldness in my voice was unmistakable, and he recognized it immediately. He paused for a fraction of a second, something flickering in his expression, hurt, regret, maybe both, before he continued his work. Nurses were following his instructions, monitors were beeping their steady rhythms, and my heart was filled with a strange, terrible ache that had nothing to do with the contractions. This was the same alpha who had abandoned me when I needed him most. The one who said there was no room in his life for an omega. The one who rejected our bond when I was at my most vulnerable, when I was carrying his child and terrified of the future. And now here he stood, about to bring that child into this world. One more push, Dorian. Ethan's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts. You can do this. Almost there. I gathered every ounce of strength I had and pushed, a scream tearing from my throat. Tears streamed down my cheeks, mixing with the sweat. The pain was so intense I wanted to give up, to let the darkness take me, but I bit down hard on my lip instead, tasting copper. Last one, come on, Ethan said, and his voice cracked as he continued. You're so strong. I pushed again with everything I had left, and then a sound, small, trembling, miraculous. My son's first cry. The sound filled the room, and something inside me broke open. My baby, my life, my everything. I collapsed back against the pillows, sobbing with relief and exhaustion. Through my tears, I watched Ethan carefully lift the baby, cleaning his nose and mouth with such gentle precision. And when he looked at me, there was something deeper in his expression, an emotion he tried to conceal but couldn't. "It's a boy," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. "Healthy and perfect." He handed the baby to the nurse, who wrapped him in a soft white blanket and brought him to me. Pink cheeks, tiny fists, soft cries that sounded like the most beautiful music I had ever heard. "Nathan," I whispered, pressing my lips to his warm forehead. My Nathan. My everything. He was mine. Only mine. He's really beautiful." Ethan's voice was barely audible, still standing close to me. I didn't look at him. I couldn't. If I looked at him, I would see the same wonder and love in his eyes that I felt in my own heart, and I couldn't handle that right now. I couldn't let him in. "Thank you, doctor," I said, my voice flat. "You may leave now." He stood there for several seconds, as if wanting to say something. I felt his gaze on me, heavy and searching. Then I heard the soft rustle of fabric as he removed his mask. "Congratulations, Dorian," he said quietly. I didn't respond. Couldn't respond. I kept my eyes fixed on Nathan's tiny face, memorizing every detail, the perfect bow of his lips, the delicate curve of his nose, the soft flutter of his eyelashes against his cheeks. The door clicked shut behind Ethan, and I finally let my tears flow freely. I held Nathan tighter, feeling his soft breaths against my skin, his tiny heartbeat so close to my own. It was just us now. Just the two of us against the world. "It's just you and me, baby," I whispered. "Always." But then the nurse returned, and her words sent ice through my veins. "Dorian, Dr. Ashford has specifically requested to handle all your follow-up appointments himself," she said with a gentle smile. "He insists on personally monitoring both you and the baby." My heart sank. This wasn't over. It had only just begun. The hours that followed blurred together in a haze of exhaustion and overwhelming emotion. Nathan was taken for routine newborn checks while I was cleaned up and moved to a recovery room. My body ached in ways I had never experienced, deep, bone-weary exhaustion that made every movement feel like a monumental effort. But the physical pain paled compared to the emotional turmoil churning inside me. Seeing Ethan again after all these months, after he walked away from us, had reopened wounds I thought were beginning to heal. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment in that delivery room. The way his hands had trembled slightly when he first saw me. The crack in his voice when he announced our son's arrival. The longing in his eyes when he looked at Nathan. "Stop it, Dorian. Don't read into things that aren't there." He made his choice when he left. I closed my eyes, but the memories wouldn't stop. I remembered the day he left, the way he had stood in our kitchen, his face pale and set, his sense soured with anxiety and guilt. I remembered the words he had spoken, each one like a knife to my heart. "I can't do this, Dorian. I'm not ready to be a father. My career, the hospital, they're offering me a fellowship, and I just can't be tied down right now." Tied down? I had repeated, my voice trembling with disbelief. "I'm carrying your child, Ethan. Our child. And you're talking about being tied down?" "I'm sorry," he had said, and the worst part was he had sounded genuinely sorry. I thought I could do this. I thought I was ready. But I'm not. "I'm so sorry, Dorian." And then he had walked out. Just like that. Leaving me alone and pregnant and shattered. The bond between us had screamed in agony for weeks afterward, a constant reminder of what I had lost. I had felt his absence like a physical wound, a phantom limb that still ached even though it was gone. The mark on my neck, the one he had placed there when we bonded, had burned and throbbed with every beat of my broken heart. But eventually, The pain had faded to a dull ache. I had picked up the pieces of my life and moved forward, determined to raise my child alone. I had found a new apartment, taken a job that paid the bills, and prepared for the arrival of my son. And now Ethan was back, standing in the middle of all my carefully constructed walls, threatening to tear them down again. When the nurse brought Nathan back to me, wrapped in a soft blue blanket, all my dark thoughts evaporated. I studied every detail of his tiny face, the slope of his nose, Ethan's nose, the curve of his lips, my lips, the delicate eyelashes resting against his cheeks, Ethan's eyelashes. He was absolutely perfect, a beautiful blend of both of us. "You're going to have the best life," I murmured to him. "I'll promise you that. You won't ever feel abandoned or unwanted." Not like I stopped myself. This wasn't about me or my pain. This was about Nathan and the future we would build together. Just the two of us. A knock interrupted my thoughts. My whole body tensed, expecting Ethan. But it was just a different nurse coming to check my vitals and explain the feeding schedule. She was kind and patient, answering all my anxious first-time parent questions without judgment. After she left, I attempted to feed Nathan for the first time. It was awkward and difficult, nothing like the peaceful scenes I had imagined. He fussed, I fumbled, and tears of frustration welled up in my eyes. But eventually we found our rhythm, and when he finally latched properly, relief flooded through me. We can do this. We will figure it out together. As evening fell and the hospital quieted down, I found myself thinking about tomorrow and all the tomorrows after that. How would I manage alone? I had savings, but they wouldn't last forever. I needed to return to work eventually, but who would watch Nathan? My small apartment was hardly ideal for raising a baby. The list of worries grew longer and more daunting with each passing moment. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, though I knew exactly who it was. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but please, if you need anything at all, reach out. For Nathan's sake, if not your own. Congratulations on your beautiful son." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it to block the number and pretend Ethan didn't exist. But another part, the part that remembered how much I had once loved him, how safe I had felt in his arms, how complete our bond had made me feel, that part whispered that maybe things were more complicated than I wanted to admit. I set the phone down without responding and looked at Nathan, sleeping peacefully beside me. Whatever happened next, whatever complicated feelings I had about Ethan, one thing was crystal clear. My son came first. I would protect him from everything, including my own foolish heart. The next morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through the hospital blinds. My body was still sore, and sleep had come in fragmented pieces throughout the night. Nathan rested in the crib beside my bed, sleeping peacefully with one tiny fist pressed against his cheek. I watched him, marveling at how someone so small could contain so much wonder. His small nose, his soft skin, his perfect features, everything about him seemed so fragile and miraculous. A knock came at the door, and I knew who it would be. Ethan entered wearing his white coat, his hair slightly disheveled, as if he had been on duty all night. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and I could see exhaustion in the lines of his face. Even so, he was devastatingly handsome in that effortless way that had first drawn me to him years ago. "Good morning, Dorian," he said, his tone carefully professional. "Time for your checkup." "Go ahead," I said without looking at him. He approached, using his stethoscope to listen to my heart and lungs. When his fingers touched my wrist to check my pulse, I felt it, the familiar warmth of his skin against mine, the electric tingle that had always accompanied his touch. It was a touch that had once made me feel like I was home. Now it felt like a stranger's hand. "Recovery is progressing well," he said, stepping back. "Bleeding is normal. Vitals are stable." Then he looked toward Nathan, and his expression softened noticeably. Something passed over his face, longing, maybe, or regret. "Have you chosen a name yet?" he asked. I stayed silent for a few seconds. He had no right to ask. No right to know. But I looked at my baby and answered anyway. Nathan. Ethan's face softened even more. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Beautiful name, he said softly. Really beautiful. An awkward silence followed. He lingered, clearly wanting to say something more, but I gave him nothing. Thank you, doctor, I said finally, my tone dismissive. You may leave now. He didn't move. Instead, he took a step closer, his expression earnest and pained. I need to monitor you and Nathan closely for the next few days, he said. It's standard procedure for... I can have another doctor handle our care. I interrupted, my voice sharp. You don't need to keep coming here, Ethan. He flinched at the sound of his name, stripped of all professional distance. Because I want to make sure you're safe, Dorian, he said, his voice dropping low and urgent. You and Nathan both. Anger rose in me, hot and fierce. You made me feel unsafe when you left, I said, my voice trembling. When you abandoned me while I was pregnant and alone. You have no right to claim you care now. Ethan's jaw tightened. He set down his clipboard and sank into the chair beside my bed, running a hand through his hair. He looked exhausted, defeated, nothing like the confident alpha I had once known. Dorian, I know what I did was terrible, he said quietly. I've regretted it every single day. Every single moment. Regret. I laughed bitterly. What good does regret do, Ethan? You left me when I needed you desperately. I was pregnant, terrified, completely alone. And you just walked away. You never even looked back. Ethan buried his face in his hands. His shoulders shook slightly, and when he spoke, his voice was muffled. I was scared, Dorian. I thought I wasn't good enough for you. The hospital gave me an ultimatum. Either end our bond or lose my fellowship. My parents were pressuring me constantly. I was weak. I was so weak. Tears filled my eyes, hot and stinging. Being weak isn't a crime, I said, my voice breaking. Leaving me was. You didn't choose me. You didn't choose us. He moved closer, dropping to his knees beside my bed. The scent of him washed over me, cedar and something darker like rain on dry earth. It was the scent that had once made me feel safe, cherished, loved. Dorian, please, he said, his voice raw. Give me one chance. Just one. I want to make everything right. For you. For Nathan. I turned my face away, unable to bear the naked desperation in his eyes. Nathan isn't yours, I said firmly. He's mine. Only mine. Shock registered on his face. He stared at me, his mouth opening and closing. Dorian, no. I won't let my son know the person who abandoned us, I said, my voice hard and cold. I won't let him experience the same pain I went through. He deserves better than that. Better than you. Ethan stood, hurt written across his handsome features. He didn't argue, didn't fight. He simply stood there, looking at me with those dark eyes filled with anguish. I understand, he said quietly. But I need you to know, I never want to hurt you or Nathan again. I'm here, Dorian. Whenever you need me. He placed a business card on the bedside table, with his personal number scrawled across it. Please take care of yourself, he said softly. Take care of our son. Then he walked out. When he was gone, I closed my eyes and let the tears fall. My heart was telling me this wouldn't be simple at all. It would be complicated and messy and painful. But I was determined to protect myself and Nathan, no matter what it cost. The hospital's social worker visited later that morning, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a gentle manner. She went through discharge procedures, explaining resources available for new parents, particularly single parents. I appreciated her lack of judgment, the way she presented information without making assumptions about my situation. Do you have support at home? She asked. I hesitated. I'll manage. She gave me a knowing look. Being resourceful is admirable, but everyone needs help sometimes. Here's information about parent support groups, lactation consultants, and emergency hotlines. Please don't hesitate to use them." After she left, I felt the weight of reality settling on my shoulders. I was truly doing this alone. No partner to share night feedings. No one to reassure me when anxiety spiraled. No strong arms to hold me when exhaustion became overwhelming. Just me and Nathan against the world. Throughout the day, various hospital staff came and went. Nurses checking on us, a pediatrician examining Nathan thoroughly, a lactation consultant helping me improve our feeding technique. Everyone was professional and helpful, but there was an emptiness to it all. These were strangers performing their jobs, not people who genuinely cared about our well-being beyond their shifts. Late afternoon brought another knock. My stomach twisted, expecting Ethan again. But instead, it was a delivery person with a large bouquet of flowers. The card read, "For the strongest person I know, and the most beautiful baby boy. Wishing you both health and happiness. Your strength inspires me every day." It wasn't signed, but I recognized Ethan's handwriting immediately. I stared at the flowers, white lilies and blue hydrangeas. My favorites. He remembered. Of course he remembered. We had been bonded mates once, and he had memorized every detail about me. The flowers were beautiful, but they also felt like a complication I didn't need. I considered asking the nurses to remove them, but something stopped me. Maybe it was exhaustion. Or maybe some small part of me still appreciated the gesture, despite everything. Evening arrived, and I attempted another feeding session with Nathan. This time went more smoothly, and I felt a small surge of accomplishment. We were learning together, finding our way. After he finished eating, I held him against my shoulder, gently patting his back the way the nurses had shown me. His tiny body was warm and trusting in my arms, and fierce protectiveness overwhelmed me. "I'll be enough for you," I whispered. "I promise. I'll be everything you need." But even as I said the words, doubt crept in. What if I wasn't enough? What if Nathan eventually asked about his other parent? What if denying Ethan access to his son was selfish rather than protective? These questions had no easy answers, and thinking about them made my head ache. I settled Nathan back in his crib and tried to rest, but sleep remained elusive. My phone sat on the table, Ethan's message still unanswered. My finger hovered over the keyboard multiple times, but I never typed anything. What would I even say? That I was confused? That seeing him again had stirred up feelings I thought were dead? That part of me, despite the betrayal and abandonment, still remembered what it felt like to be loved by him? No. Those were dangerous thoughts that led nowhere good. I had to stay focused on what mattered, protecting my heart and raising Nathan in a stable, loving environment. Even if that environment was just the two of us. Discharge day arrived with mixed emotions. I dressed Nathan in his tiny blue onesie, and he looked so adorable that my heart melted completely. The nurses provided detailed discharge instructions, and I packed our few belongings. When Ethan appeared again, I wasn't surprised. "Your discharge paperwork is complete," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "Do you have transportation arranged?" "Yes," I said firmly. "I booked a cab. I'll manage." Ethan bit his lip, clearly wanting to say something, but holding back. His scent was agitated. I could smell it, the sharp edge of anxiety mixed with something softer, something almost like longing. "Dorian, you'll need help during these initial weeks," he said carefully. "Especially being alone." "I'm fine," I interrupted. "Nathan and I will be perfectly okay." He was about to respond when his phone beeped, an emergency page. "Dr. Ashford, cardiac emergency in the ER," a nurse announced at the door. Ethan released a frustrated sigh. "I'll call you later," he said, but I gave no response. He looked at Nathan one last time, his expression softening with an emotion I couldn't quite name. Then he was gone. I carefully settled Nathan into his car seat and climbed into the cab. When we reached my apartment building, reality struck hard. It was an old building with an elevator that worked sporadically. I began climbing the stairs, Nathan in one arm and my bag in the other. By the time I reached my floor, exhaustion had overtaken me. Entering the apartment, silence engulfed us. Nobody was here. Just Nathan and me. I placed Nathan in his bassinet and sat watching him. His tiny chest rose and fell with each breath. His small fists curled against his cheeks. He was so perfect, so utterly dependent on me. "We're going to be okay, baby," I told him, kissing his forehead gently. "I promise." But as night fell, reality became clearer. Nathan cried every 2 hours, needing feeding and diaper changes. I was exhausted. My body was still recovering from delivery, and now this constant care was overwhelming. But I pushed myself. I wanted to be strong for Nathan. One night, when Nathan was crying intensely, I tried everything. Feeding, diaper changes, rocking, singing lullabies. Nothing worked. His cries grew more intense, and panic started setting in. I checked his temperature, slightly elevated. My heart pounded. What should I do? Go to the emergency room. I picked up my phone, rereading Ethan's card, and thought for several seconds. Then I called. He answered after 2 rings. "Dorian." His voice was alert, concerned. "What's wrong?" Nathan won't stop crying," I said, my voice trembling. "And his temperature is higher than normal. I don't know what to do." "I'm coming right now," he said immediately. "Send me your address." "Don't panic, okay?" "I'm on my way." I shared my location through the messaging app. Within 15 minutes, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, Ethan stood there with his medical bag, concern filling his eyes. He was still wearing his hospital scrubs, his dark hair tousled, as if he had rushed straight here. "Where's Nathan?" he asked, stepping inside. I led him to the bassinet. Nathan was still crying, his sounds weak but continuous. Ethan immediately picked him up, checking his temperature with a digital thermometer, listening to his chest with a stethoscope, examining his throat with gentle efficiency. "Looks like a mild throat infection," Ethan said, his voice calm and reassuring. "Nothing serious, but definitely uncomfortable for him." He pulled medicine from his bag. "Give him these drops every 8 hours. Keep him hydrated. Try to humidify the room if possible." I noted all the instructions carefully, my hands shaking slightly. Ethan gently rocked Nathan while humming softly, and gradually, Nathan's crying subsided. I was amazed at how calming Ethan's touch was for Nathan. He sat on the couch, holding Nathan in his arms, softly singing a lullaby. My heart tightened. This was the same Alpha who had abandoned me. Yet now he was holding my baby so tenderly, as if Nathan were his own family. "You didn't need to come," I said quietly. Ethan looked at me, his dark eyes intense. "Yes, I did, Dorian. For you. For Nathan. I can't watch you struggle." I fell silent. Nathan finally fell asleep in Ethan's arms, his tiny face peaceful for the first time in hours. Ethan slowly placed him in the bassinet, carefully adjusted the blanket, and returned to where I stood. "You look completely exhausted," he said softly. "When did you last sleep properly?" I shrugged. "I honestly don't remember." Ethan's expression softened. "You need to rest. I'll stay here tonight in case Nathan needs anything." "No, you have duty tomorrow." "I took the night off," he said firmly. "Please, Dorian. You need rest." I couldn't argue anymore. I went to my room, but sleep wouldn't come. My thoughts raced endlessly, circling around Ethan's presence in my apartment, around the warmth in his eyes when he looked at Nathan, around the scent of him that still made my heart ache. A few hours later, I came back out. Ethan was on the couch, awake, watching Nathan. "Why aren't you sleeping yet?" I asked. He looked at me. "I'm here so you don't have to worry." I sat down beside him on the couch, keeping careful distance between us. Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy with unspoken words. Finally, I asked the question that had been burning inside me. "Ethan, why are you doing all this? What's the real reason?" He stayed quiet for a moment, staring at his hands. Then he spoke, his voice raw. Because I never want to lose you and Nathan again. I made a terrible mistake, Dorian, leaving you. It's the biggest regret of my life. Now I want to fix it. My heart raced. You don't understand, Ethan. You didn't just physically leave me. You shattered my trust, my beliefs. I thought we were forever. I thought our bond meant something real. But you destroyed everything with one decision. Ethan took my hand gently, carefully. I know. And I apologize every single day. Without you, my life feels incomplete. Empty. I held back tears. But Nathan exists now. He's my priority. His safety, his happiness, that's everything to me. He's my priority too, Ethan said firmly. I want to be present for Nathan. Present for you, if you'll give me the chance. I pulled my hand away. It's not that easy, Ethan. Rebuilding trust takes time. Pain doesn't disappear overnight. I'll wait, he said simply. However long it takes, I'll be here. His eyes showed pure sincerity, genuine honesty. I said nothing, just stood and went back to my room. But that night, for the first time in months, I felt a small measure of peace. Because someone actually cared. Whether I was ready to accept him or not. The following days established a strange new pattern. Ethan would stop by after his hospital shifts, always bringing something, groceries, baby supplies, takeout food, so I wouldn't have to cook. He never stayed long, respecting my boundaries, but his presence became a constant fixture. I found myself watching him with Nathan, observing how naturally he held him, how confidently he soothed him when fussy. He was good with babies, genuinely good. And Nathan seemed to sense it, calming almost immediately in Ethan's arms. Sometimes I caught myself softening, remembering why I had fallen in love with him originally. But then memories of abandonment would surface, and my walls would rebuild themselves instantly. This push and pull exhausted me almost as much as new parenthood itself. One evening, after Ethan had left, I stood in the bathroom staring at my reflection. Dark circles shadowed my eyes. My hair needed washing. My clothes hung loosely from pregnancy weight I hadn't yet lost. When had I become this person? I remembered being confident, put together, happy. Now I just looked tired and broken. My phone buzzed with a message from Ethan. You're doing an amazing job. Nathan is lucky to have you. Sleep well tonight. Despite myself, I smiled. Maybe healing wasn't linear. Maybe it was okay to be confused and scared and still somehow moving forward. Maybe that was enough for now. Over the following weeks, Ethan became a regular presence in our lives. Sometimes he came under the pretense of checking on Nathan's development. Other times he arrived with groceries I hadn't asked for. Occasionally he simply showed up, offering help without being asked. Initially, I maintained my distance, determined to keep those protective walls firmly in place. But gradually, almost imperceptibly, those barriers began to crumble. His care felt genuine, not forced or obligatory. One evening, I was in the kitchen preparing Nathan's formula when I heard Ethan's voice from the living room. He had Nathan on the playmat, talking to him with genuine enthusiasm. Look at this, Nathan. See the rattle? Hear that sound? His excited tone made Nathan gurgle happily in response. I watched them from the doorway. Ethan was completely absorbed in the moment, smiling at every tiny reaction Nathan gave. His scent was warm and content, the sharp edges of anxiety softened by something that smelled almost like joy. Your father is incredibly strong, Nathan, Ethan said softly. Just like you'll be someday. My heart melted hearing those words. He was calling me Nathan's father, acknowledging my role, validating everything I had done alone. I brought the bottle over. Here you go. Ethan took it and began feeding Nathan with such careful tenderness that I couldn't help but sit beside them. You don't have to do this every day, I mentioned, watching how naturally he handled my son. I want to, Ethan replied simply. Then he looked at me with those intense eyes. Dorian, you too. You mean everything to me. I want to feel like I'm contributing to your life, even if it's just in small ways. I took a deep breath, feeling vulnerable. Um, I'm terrified, Ethan. If I let you back into our lives and you leave again, I'll be destroyed. And this time, Nathan will be hurt too. Ethan carefully placed Nathan on the couch and knelt before me. His scent shifted, becoming intense, focused, almost desperate. Dorian, I swear to you, I will never leave. I won't hurt you or Nathan. I give you my word on everything I hold sacred. Promises can be broken, Ethan. I whispered, tears filling my eyes. I've seen it happen. This one won't break, he said, cradling my face in his hands. His alpha scent surrounded me, strong and reassuring, making my omega instincts purr in response despite everything. You can trust me. I'll prove it every single day. I looked into his eyes and saw the old love still burning there, mixed with new determination and raw honesty. I need time, Ethan. Please understand that. I'll give you all the time you need, he said, pressing a light, reverent kiss to my forehead. In that moment, all my carefully constructed defenses cracked wide open. I didn't hold back my tears this time. They flowed freely as Ethan pulled me into a hug. Tight, warm, protective. Everything I had missed. It's okay, Dorian, he murmured against my hair. Crying is healthy. I'm here now. I'll always be here. For the first time in months, I felt truly safe in his arms. Surrounded by his familiar scent, cedar and rain and home, I let myself relax. The scent I had tried so hard to hate but never could. The scent that made my omega instincts purr with contentment. That embrace broke something inside me, shattered those barriers I had worked so hard to build. After that night, our relationship began its slow journey toward healing. Ethan maintained his regular visits, sometimes cooking dinner when I was too exhausted, other times staying late into the night to handle Nathan's fussy moments. I noticed how much he had genuinely changed, more mature, more understanding, infinitely more patient than before. One quiet evening, we sat together on a couch while Nathan slept peacefully in his bassinet. We found ourselves reminiscing about our past. Do you remember when we first met? Ethan asked with a nostalgic smile. The hospital charity gala, I said. I was working as a waiter, and you accidentally knocked a wine glass all over my shirt. Ethan laughed softly. Yes, and you didn't even give me a proper apology. You just stood there awkwardly. I was nervous, he confessed. Your scent was so intoxicating, lavender and vanilla, that I couldn't think straight. I felt myself blushing. Really? I had no idea. Absolutely, Ethan said, looking at me with such intensity that my breath caught. I wanted you from that very first moment. I met his gaze, and he moved closer. Slowly, carefully, as if afraid I might disappear. His scent enveloped me, overwhelming my senses in the best way. My heart began racing uncontrollably. Dorian, he whispered my name like a prayer. Yes. My own voice came out barely audible. He touched my cheek, his thumb stroking gently across my skin. I want permission to love you again. Properly this time. Truly and completely. I closed my eyes as emotions threatened to overwhelm me entirely. Ethan, just one chance. Please, Dorian. That's all I'm asking. I opened my eyes and saw pure sincerity there. Complete vulnerability laid bare before me. Slowly, I nodded. He kissed me then, soft and gentle, filled with unspoken promises and hope for our future. His scent was intoxicating, alpha and desire and love, all wrapped together. Tears slipped down my cheeks, but these were happy tears, tears of relief and possibility. When we finally pulled apart, he pressed his forehead against mine. Thank you, he whispered. I swear I won't disappoint you. I kissed him back, this time with more depth and need, pouring months of loneliness and longing into that connection. His tongue traced my lower lip, and I opened for him, letting him taste me, letting him remember what we had lost and what we could rebuild. Our bond was reforming, stronger than before. Tested by pain but somehow surviving, because now we were both more mature, both aware of consequences, and both desperately wanted this to work. For Nathan's sake and for our own. That night, we held each other on the couch, dreaming together about a new future. One where all three of us were a proper family. And for the first time, those dreams didn't seem impossible. They felt real, achievable, within reach. The shift in our dynamic was gradual, but undeniable. Ethan started staying later, helping with Nathan's nighttime routine. He would read to him from picture books, his voice soft and soothing, while I watched from the doorway with a heart that felt too full for my chest. We developed an easy rhythm. I would handle morning feedings while Ethan got ready for work. Then he would return in the evenings to give me a break. It wasn't official co-parenting, not yet, but it was something beautiful growing between us. One morning, I woke to find Ethan already awake, holding Nathan against his chest while humming a melody I didn't recognize. "Is that a lullaby?" I asked sleepily. "Something my mother used to sing," he admitted. I thought Nathan might like it. Watching them together, I realized something important. I wasn't just healing for myself anymore. I was healing for us, for the family we could potentially become. We talked more openly during those weeks, working through the pain of our separation. Ethan explained the pressure he had faced from the hospital administration, how they had viewed our relationship as unprofessional given his position. He described his parents' traditional expectations and their disappointment when they learned about our bond. None of it excused what he did, but it helped me understand the impossible position he thought he was in. "I should have fought harder," he admitted one night. "I should have chosen you over everything else. That's what mates do." "Yes," I agreed quietly. "But you're fighting now. That has to count for something." He looked at me with such gratitude that I had to look away, still not quite ready to fully surrender to the hope building inside me. But we were getting there. Slowly but surely. One honest conversation at a time. Several months passed, and a comfortable routine had settled into our lives. Ethan was at my apartment almost every day. He hadn't officially moved in, but his toothbrush occupied space in my bathroom, his clothes hung in my closet, and he spent most nights sleeping beside us. We were properly co-parenting now, and Nathan was absolutely thriving with his presence. He would giggle when Ethan tickled him, his tiny hands grasping at Ethan's fingers during playtime. One evening, I was in the kitchen preparing dinner, simple pasta, when Ethan wrapped his arms around me from behind. His embrace was warm and secure, his chin resting on my shoulder. His scent wrapped around me, cedar and rain, familiar and beloved. "I love you, Dorian," he murmured, pressing a soft kiss to my neck. My heart stuttered. This was the first time he had spoken those 3 words directly in recent weeks. "I love you too, Ethan," I whispered, covering his hands with mine. He gently turned me to face him. "I want us to officially bond again. Properly this time. Legally and emotionally. The whole commitment." My eyes widened in surprise. Are you absolutely sure?" "That's such a huge step. I have never been more certain about anything in my entire life," he said, reaching into his pocket to produce a small velvet box. Inside sat a ring, a simple silver band with a delicate emerald stone. My birthstone. "Dorian, will you bond with me again? Will you marry me? Forever, truly this time?" Tears streamed down my cheeks. I couldn't find my voice to speak, so I just nodded repeatedly. "Yes, yes, yes." Ethan slipped the ring onto my finger, then kissed me. Deep, possessive, loving, claiming. Our bond reconnected in that moment, invisible threads weaving back together. This time unbreakable. A few weeks later, we planned an intimate ceremony with only close friends and immediate family in attendance. It would be a simple garden wedding with fairy lights and flowers, creating a magical atmosphere. Nathan was there too, dressed in a tiny white suit, held in the arms of Ethan's best man. When I walked down the aisle toward Ethan, I saw tears glistening in his eyes. "You look absolutely beautiful," he whispered when I reached him. "So do you." I smiled through my own tears. We exchanged vows that we had written ourselves, handwritten, heartfelt, and completely raw. I promise never to abandon you, Dorian, Ethan said, gripping my hand tightly. I will always protect you and Nathan. I'll be your shield, your home, your everything. I promise to trust you, Ethan, I replied, my voice shaking with emotion. I'll give you chances, love you deeply, and we'll build a family together that nothing can break apart. When we kissed, everyone cheered enthusiastically. Nathan clapped his tiny hands together, gurgling excitedly as if he understood we were celebrating something wonderful. Our family was finally complete. The reception was small, held in the backyard. String lights twinkled overhead while soft music played in the background. We danced for the first time as officially bonded mates, Ethan leading confidently while I felt completely safe in his arms. Does this feel real to you? I asked softly. Very real, Ethan said, kissing my forehead tenderly. And I'm grateful every single day that you gave me this second chance. I'm grateful too, I said, that you came back, that you fought for all three of us. We held each other close, swaying to the music, completely lost in our own private world. This was the happy ending I had never thought possible. But here it was, real, tangible, beautiful. That night, when we returned home, officially our home now, Nathan was already asleep. We were in the bedroom, exhausted but blissfully happy. Ethan gently laid me on the bed, kissing my face with such tenderness. From today forward, we're officially a family, he murmured. Legally, emotionally, in every possible way. I smiled contentedly. We've always been a family. It just took us some time to realize it fully. He hugged me tightly. Thank you, Dorian. You forgave me and gave me another chance. I'll spend my life being worthy of that gift. You already are, I said, listening to his steady heartbeat. We fell asleep in each other's arms, peaceful and content. The next morning, when I woke, Ethan was already feeding Nathan, humming a soft lullaby. I watched them, my alpha and my son, and realized this was everything I had ever wanted. The journey had been tumultuous and painful, but the ending was absolutely perfect. Living as bonded mates brought new dimensions to our relationship. We learned each other's rhythms all over again. Ethan's tendency to wake early and make coffee, my habit of staying up late writing. We discovered how to navigate disagreements without letting them escalate, how to support each other through stress without taking frustrations out on one another. Nathan became the center of our universe, but we also made time for ourselves. Date nights when Ethan's sister would babysit. Quiet moments on a balcony after Nathan fell asleep. I never thought I could be this happy, I admitted one night. Neither did I, Ethan responded. Especially after I ruined everything so completely. Sometimes I still can't believe you took me back. Love is strange that way, I mused. It endures even when we think it shouldn't. Our bond deepened in ways I hadn't experienced the first time around. Perhaps because we had both been broken and rebuilt, we appreciated each other more fully. Ethan never took me for granted anymore, always expressing gratitude for small things. A home-cooked meal, a listening ear after a difficult shift, my patience with his long hours. And I learned to voice my needs instead of suffering in silence, trusting that he would hear me and respond. We grew together rather than apart, building something stronger than what we had lost. One evening, while watching Nathan play with his building blocks, Ethan squeezed my hand. We did good, didn't we? He said softly. We did better than good, I agreed. We created something beautiful from the ashes of our mistakes. He kissed my temple, and we sat in comfortable silence, watching our son and feeling grateful for second chances. The physical aspect of our relationship rekindled slowly, carefully. We took our time relearning each other's bodies, discovering what had changed and what remained the same. There was no rush, no pressure, just two people rediscovering intimacy after months apart. Every touch felt meaningful. Every kiss a promise. I missed this, Ethan murmured against my skin one night. I missed you. I'm here now, I reassured him. We both are. Our connection felt sacred in a way it hadn't before. Perhaps because we understood how easily it could be lost, we cherished every moment together, never taking anything for granted. And when we came together physically, it was with the knowledge that we were building something permanent, something that would last. Our bond hummed contentedly between us, finally at peace after months of painful separation. We were whole again, perhaps even more complete than we had been before everything fell apart. A year later, our lives had transformed completely. Ethan was officially living with me full-time, and we had rented a larger apartment that included a proper nursery for Nathan, colorful, cozy, filled with toys and books. Nathan was learning to walk now, toddling around the apartment while giggling constantly at his own unsteady steps. I had started freelance content writing from home, which gave me flexibility with childcare. Ethan had been promoted to senior attending physician at the hospital. We were financially stable and emotionally stronger than ever before. One Sunday morning, I was in the kitchen making breakfast, pancakes, Nathan's absolute favorite, when Ethan entered carrying Nathan on his shoulders. "Airplane incoming," Ethan announced dramatically, and Nathan squealed with pure delight. I laughed at their antics. "Be careful. He might fall." "Never," Ethan said seriously. "I would never let him fall." Then he winked at me playfully. We ate breakfast together at the table. Messy, chaotic, absolutely perfect. Nathan managed to get more pancake on his face than in his mouth, but his happiness made the mess worthwhile. Later, we went to the park to let Nathan play on the swings. Ethan pushed him gently while Nathan giggled with each movement. I sat on a nearby bench, watching my two favorite people in the world. A couple walked past and smiled warmly. "Beautiful family," they commented. "Thank you," I replied with a genuine smile. And it was true. We were a beautiful family in every sense. When Nathan grew tired, we returned home. He played with his toys while Ethan and I relaxed on the couch with coffee. "Do you remember when Nathan first said his version of Daddy?" I asked. "Yes," Ethan said, getting emotional at the memory. He was pointing at me. I actually cried. I did too, I admitted. Because in that moment, I realized we were truly a family. Complete and whole. Ethan took my hand. "We always will be. I promise you that with everything I have." That evening, after we put Nathan to bed, we were in our bedroom together. Ethan held me close, his scent wrapping around me like a warm blanket. "Dorian," he said softly, "I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I hadn't been the one in that delivery room that day." I considered the question thoughtfully. Maybe we never would have reconciled. Maybe Nathan would have grown up never knowing you. "That's terrifying to think about," Ethan admitted. "But I'm grateful that fate brought us back together." "Me too," I said, "because you showed me that second chances are real. That love can actually heal wounds we thought were permanent." We were quiet for a few moments, then Ethan spoke again. "I've been thinking, maybe we could give Nathan a sibling." My eyes widened in surprise. "Are you serious about that?" "Absolutely," he said. "I want our family to grow." "If you're ready, of course." I smiled, feeling warmth spread through my chest. I'm ready. We're ready." We kissed each other slowly, deeply, the embrace filled with promises and dreams for our future. Our life looked incredibly bright ahead. A few months later, when I took a pregnancy test and saw the positive result, Ethan literally spun me around in the air. "We're going to be parents again," he announced excitedly. Nathan looked confused by all the commotion but clapped along anyway. We told him he would be getting a baby brother or sister, and he simply smiled his innocent toddler smile. This pregnancy journey was completely different from the first. Ethan was with me every single step of the way, attending every appointment, handling my strange cravings at odd hours, having midnight conversations about our expanding family. There was no fear, no loneliness, no anxiety, just love and unwavering support. When our second son was born, we named him Carter. Nathan was incredibly excited. "Baby," he kept repeating, gently touching Carter's tiny hands with wonder. Our family now consisted of 4 members. It was chaotic, messy, loud, and demanding, but it was also absolutely perfect in every way. One night, after both boys were asleep, Ethan and I stood on the balcony, looking up at the stars. His scent was warm and content, mingling with mine in a way that felt like coming home. "Did you ever imagine our story would reach this point?" I asked. "Never in my wildest dreams," Ethan admitted. "But I'm so grateful it did. Because Nathan Carter, this is everything that matters to me." He pulled me into a side embrace, and I leaned into him, feeling his warmth. "For me too," I said. "You show me that people can genuinely change. That forgiveness holds real power." We stood there in comfortable silence, thinking about our family and the journey that had brought us here. The path had been difficult, filled with pain, heartbreak, and doubt. But we had survived all of it. And now we were thriving in ways we had never thought possible. Because love had conquered everything in the end. And now the 4 of us were together forever. Unbreakable. Eternal. Family. Life with 2 children brought new challenges and joys we hadn't anticipated. Nathan adapted to being a big brother with surprising grace, though he occasionally showed normal sibling jealousy when Carter received too much attention. We navigated those moments with patience and understanding, making sure Nathan still felt special and loved. Ethan proved to be an incredible father, patient during tantrums, creative during playtime, loving during bedtime routines. Watching him with our sons filled me with such profound happiness that sometimes I had to blink back tears. "What's wrong?" he would ask when he caught me emotional. "Nothing's wrong," I would assure him. "Everything is finally right." We established traditions as a family: Sunday morning pancakes, evening walks to the park, bedtime stories where we took turns doing silly voices. These small rituals became the foundation of our family identity, creating memories I knew our boys would carry into adulthood. Sometimes, during quiet moments, I would reflect on how far we had come. From that painful delivery room encounter, the man who had abandoned me was not the same man who now changed diapers at 3 o'clock in the morning and sang lullabies until his voice grew hoarse. People could change. I had learned that. Growth was possible when someone truly committed to it. "Do you have any regrets?" Ethan asked me one anniversary evening. "Only one," I admitted. "I wish we hadn't wasted so much time apart. But maybe we needed that separation to appreciate what we have now." He nodded thoughtfully. "I think you're right. We're better together now than we ever were before. Our bond as mates had matured into something deeper and more resilient. We had weathered the worst storm possible and emerged stronger. Our love wasn't the naive, idealistic romance of youth anymore. It was tested, thorn-proof, unshakable. When challenges arose, we faced them as a united team. When celebrations happened, we shared them as one. Our sons would grow up seeing what real partnership looked like, what commitment actually meant. That knowledge filled me with pride as I watched Ethan read bedtime stories to Nathan and Carter, their small faces illuminated by the nightlight's soft glow. I felt overwhelming gratitude. This was my family. This was my home. This was the life I had fought so hard to build from the broken pieces of what came before. And it was more beautiful than anything I could have imagined. Our story hadn't ended in that delivery room. It had only just begun. And the chapters ahead promised to be filled with love, laughter, and the kind of happiness that comes from choosing each other every single day. Because that's what we did now. We chose each other. We chose our family. We chose love over fear, forgiveness over bitterness, hope over despair. And it was the best choice we had ever made. Extra story. The first sign came as a dull ache low in my belly, a familiar warmth that started spreading through my veins like honey. I was in the middle of writing an article when the trembling began, small at first, barely noticeable, then growing into something that made my fingers slip on the keyboard. I knew what this was. I had been dreading it for weeks. My heat, the suppressants I had been taking since Nathan's birth, were wearing off faster than expected. My body, deprived of my alpha's presence for so long, was finally demanding what it needed, what it craved. Ethan was still at the hospital. His shift wouldn't end for another 4 hours. I stumbled to the bedroom, my legs shaking beneath me. The familiar scent of our shared space, cedar and rain, Ethan's scent, wrapped around me like a desperate embrace. I buried my face in his pillow, inhaling deeply, trying to find some small measure of relief. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. My skin burned. Every nerve ending felt raw, exposed, screaming for touch. For my alpha's touch. The bond mark on my neck throbbed with each beat of my frantic heart, a constant reminder of who I belonged to. I needed him. I needed Ethan. My phone was on the nightstand. I reached for it with trembling hands, my vision swimming. The screen blurred as I tried to type his number, my fingers clumsy and uncoordinated. I missed the call button 3 times before I finally managed to connect. He answered on the first ring. Dorian. His voice was sharp with concern. Even through the phone, I could hear the change in his breathing, the way it quickened as he caught the edge of my distress. Ethan, I gasped, my voice breaking. I need you. I'm going into heat. It's early. I can't. Stay on the line, he said immediately. Don't hang up. I'm coming right now. Can you hear me? I'm coming. His voice was calm, steady, the voice I had come to rely on through every crisis. But underneath it, I could hear the tremor of his own desperate need. My heat was already affecting him, pulling at the invisible threads that bound us together. Talk to me, he said. Tell me what's happening. I tried to answer, but the words wouldn't come. A wave of heat crashed over me, and I curled into a ball on the bed, clutching his pillow to my chest. I was burning. I was drowning. I was dying without him. 15 minutes, he promised. Hold on for me, Dorian. Just 15 minutes. I counted the seconds. I counted the beats of my racing heart. I counted everything except the minutes that stretched like hours, each one more agonizing than the last. And then I heard it, the front door slamming open, the sound of footsteps racing through the apartment. I'm here, Ethan called out, his voice echoing through the hallway. Dorian, I'm here. He burst into the bedroom, and the sight of him made me sob with relief. He was still in his hospital scrubs, his hair wild and his eyes wilder, his alpha scent pouring off him in waves that made my omega instincts howl with joy. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled me into his arms. The moment his skin touched mine, something inside me broke open. I clung to him, crying, trembling, desperate. I've got you, he murmured against my hair. I've got you, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere. His scent wrapped around me like a protective shield. Cedar rain home. I buried my face in the curve of his neck, breathing him in, feeling the burning in my skin begin to ease. Need you, I gasped. Ethan, please. I know, he said softly. I know what you need. Let me take care of you. He laid me back on the bed with such tenderness that it made me cry harder. His hands moved over my body, gentle and reverent, tracing every curve and angle with familiar precision. You're so beautiful, he whispered, pressing kisses to my forehead, my cheeks, the corner of my mouth. My beautiful Omega. My everything. Yours. I agreed, the word coming out as a broken whimper. Only yours. He kissed my neck, and I felt the warmth of his mouth against my bond mark. The sensation made me arch against him, a moan escaping my lips. He pressed his nose to the sensitive spot, inhaling deeply, and I felt the rumble of a growl in his chest. My Omega, he repeated, and this time the words were deeper, darker, full of possessive alpha need. So perfect for me. So needy. I nodded helplessly, beyond words, beyond thought. All that existed was him and the desperate ache inside me that only he could fill. His fingers found the edge of my shirt and pushed it up, exposing my burning skin to the cool air. His touch against my bare stomach made me gasp, soft, warm, grounding. He pressed his palm flat against my belly, feeling the trembling muscles beneath. Warm, he observed, his voice husky. So warm, Dorian. Are you ready for me? Yes, I begged. Please, Ethan. I can't wait anymore. He stripped off his clothes with efficient movements, and when he came back to me, his eyes had darkened to a shade I knew intimately. The alpha in him was surfacing, and the sight of it made my omega purr with satisfaction. He covered my body with his own, and the weight of him was exactly what I needed. Grounding, protecting, claiming. I love you, he said, looking down at me with such intensity that I felt the words deep in my soul. I love you so much, Dorian. I'm never going to leave you. Never again. I know, I whispered. I know. I trust you. He kissed me then, deep and demanding, tasting of need and promise and forever. I melted into him, letting him take what he needed, giving him everything I had. When he finally entered me, the world narrowed to just the two of us. His scent, his touch, his voice, everything was Ethan. Everything was home. The heat that had been burning me from the inside out began to ease, replaced by something sweeter, something that felt like peace. We moved together in perfect sync, bodies remembering what hearts had never forgotten. He whispered my name like a prayer, and I answered him with everything I had. My alpha, my mate, my home. When it was over, when the waves of heat had subsided into gentle ripples, I lay in his arms, exhausted and spent. His hand traced lazy patterns on my back, and his scent had mellowed into contentment. How do you feel? He asked softly. Better, I admit it. So much better. Thank you, Ethan. He kissed my forehead. You don't have to thank me. I would do anything for you. Anything. I snuggled closer, basking in the warmth of his body. The bond between us hummed with satisfaction, stronger than it had ever been. This was what I had been missing. This was what I had been afraid to trust again. But now, lying in his arms with the scent of our mingling pheromones filling the room, I knew I had made the right choice. We were going to be okay. We were already okay. Dorian. Ethan's voice was hesitant. I need to ask you something. I looked up at him, confused by the sudden tension in his frame. What is it? His hand stilled on my back. Your heat came early. A lot earlier than expected. And I've noticed you've been tired lately. Sick sometimes. I frowned. What are you saying? He met my eyes, and something in his expression made my breath catch. I'm saying that maybe it wasn't just the heat. Maybe your body was telling us something else. I stared at him, realization dawning slowly. The exhaustion. The nausea. The way certain foods had started making me nauseous. No, I breathed. It can't be. We haven't. It's only been. Ethan's smile was soft, hopeful. We've been together. We're bonded. It only takes once. My hand drifted to my stomach, pressing against the flat surface beneath. Could there really be something growing inside me? Another life? Another child? I don't know, I admit it. It could just be stress. Or hormones. Or it could be a baby, Ethan said gently. Our baby. I looked at him, my alpha, my husband, my second chance, and felt tears prick my eyes. Would you be happy? I asked. If it was. Ethan pulled me closer, pressing his lips to my forehead. Happier than I ever thought possible, he promised. Because it would mean we're building something even more permanent. Even more real. A family that keeps growing, keeps loving, keeps going. I laughed through my tears. You always know what to say. Every word, he said. I want everything with you, Dorian. Everything. We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, dreaming about the future. 2 days later, I took a pregnancy test. It was positive. When I showed Ethan the result, he dropped to his knees in front of me, pressing his face to my still flat belly, crying tears of joy. Thank you, he whispered to me, to the baby, to fate itself. Thank you for giving me another chance. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for everything. I ran my fingers through his hair, feeling the warmth of his love surrounding me like a blanket. 3 months later, we told Nathan he was going to be a big brother. He didn't quite understand, but he clapped his hands and smiled, and that was enough. 9 months later, Carter was born, a perfect little omega with Ethan's eyes and my smile. And when I held him in my arms, looking at my husband and my firstborn son gathered around me, I realized something profound. This was what we had been fighting for all along. Not just survival, not just forgiveness, but a future, a family, a love that had weathered every storm and emerged stronger than ever. My alpha, my children, my home, and it was perfect. Then,